I played Dragon Age Origins for the first time 15 years after it came out, and you should too. Dragon Age Origins tells the story of the Grey Wardens, a group of heroes that are dedicated to fighting off the Blight, a world-ending tragedy facilitated by archdemons. And Origins also tells the story of a ragtag group of people who all come together to fight off the upcoming Blight. This video will only spoil the setup of the game and the first little bit of gameplay, specifically from the mage origin, because I don't want to just recap the entire plot, not in this video at least. But like any RPG with choice elements, your experience will be completely different from mine in this game. So if you've never played Dragon Age Origins before, let this video convince you to give it a shot. Whoa, I can kiss her? I didn't realize she liked us that much.
'Tis a rather odd discussion you seem to desire, leaning in so closely.
Do you object?
Not unless you stop.
Guys, she's in love with us. I've spent just the past few months slowly making my way through Origins, and despite its age, the game not only looks fine for the most part. Why does he always look so, like, haunted every time? But the story is amazing, and the companions are incredibly likable in their own rights. Except for Oghren. Rest in peace, King. You are a victim of being written in the late 2000s, and you did not age well at all in the slightest. So for my game, I played as an elf mage because I am nothing if I am not slinging spells. And I also just really like being an elf. I think they're pretty. One thing about Dragon Age Origins that I thought was super cool that I have never gotten to play with before is the way your race and class inform what backstory options you have, and the fact that you even have backstory options to begin with to inform you of who your character is in the first place. And this is a little bit more, I guess, specific than the Baldur's Gate D&D backgrounds. This is something where your background, not only is it something that informs the roleplay of your character, there's also a specific set of circumstances that is unique to your background that you're going to get to play through within the first few hours of the game. As an elf, my options were limited. Elves in the Dragon Age universe are an oppressed class, and when you play as one, you are also subjected to racism, mostly in the form of snide comments here and there and microaggressions. I think I'm just making this up.
Where's my armor? And why are you dressed so preposterously?
Anyway, as a mage, I was only given one option. Be a member of the Magi Circle. In the world of Dragon Age, mages are feared and corralled by the Chantry, which is the big church that rules everything. Mages are kept on a tight leash, and wishes for freedom are seen as too radical. It's also stated that children are essentially taken from their families once they display magical abilities. Mages and elves are both othered and ostracized, so being an elf mage was certainly a choice on my part, but you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. Slinging spells and being beautiful is just what I'm here to do. Ignore that my character looks like that. Meet my special little guy, the Dragon Age OC of all time, Wheatley. Yes, Wheatley, like wheat as in the food with a lee thrown at the end of it. I was feeling very creative. Wheatley has these dead eyes and the catchphrase of the century.
Can I get you a ladder so you can get off my back?
He's a silly little guy, a little dumb mayhaps, and very much loyal to his besties to a fault. He spent much of his life at the Circle, learning to control his magic and studying as an apprentice mage. So, the fun thing about Dragon Age Origins is that the first few hours of the game are determined by your chosen backstory, and as I stated previously, each origin has its own unique starting point that the player goes through until we all end up at the same point on the timeline, creating a level of replayability. As a mage, I started at the climax of any young mage's life, the day Wheatley was tested in the harrowing. If successful, he would become a full-fledged member of the Circle, becoming a real mage, more or less.
The ritual sends you into the Fade, and there you will face a demon, armed with only your will.
If Wheatley fails, though, he'll be turned into an abomination and slain. It's the great risk of being a mage. His very life depends on being able to overcome this trial, so failure is quite literally not an option. We head to the Fade, something that will happen a lot in this game, and navigate our way through the trial. The Fade, for all intents and purposes, is kind of like a mixture of the afterlife, a dream realm, and just where spirits go to hang out. It goes pretty well for Wheatley. Oh no, he's dead!
That's right, come on!
I'm almost dead as well.
Let's see what you're made of.
Rip to mouse.
Can I get you a ladder so you can get off my back?
Rip to mouse, truly.
Did it. You actually did it. When you came, I hoped that maybe you might be able to, but I never really thought any of you were worthy. You just need to want to let me in.
So he is the test, right?
Keep your wits about you, mage. True tests never end.
What do you mean by that? This is essentially the first dungeon of the game, and this is where I learned that any game with a pause function can be turned into a turn-based game if you try hard enough. I'll be so real. I am not the gamer of the century. I have not played a lot of RPGs in my time, and I am pretty sure RuneScape is the only game I have played that I can think of, at least, that is somewhat similar in combat to Dragon Age. So, in that sense, Dragon Age Origins had a bit of a learning curve for me, and a bit of a challenge. I did eventually get used to the flow of combat, but I was, at the end of the game, abusing the pause feature still, and let's just say normal difficulty in 2009 means something very, very, very different than normal difficulty in 2025. That was terrible. Right, okay. Please, this is crazy. Right. Okay, load last save, but then also, I think we do need to lower the difficulty. After becoming a full mage, we're then met by our best friend in the circle. I may be placing more emphasis on the friendship than I'm supposed to, but we are ride or die besties. Jowan is worried that he hasn't been called to attempt the harrowing yet, and assumes that he will be doomed to becoming a tranquil. Mages who become tranquil have their emotions suppressed and are husks of their former selves. It is described in a later game that being tranquil is like having all of the music and color stripped from the world, and it sounds like a very miserable existence, and you don't even remember what it's like to have feelings in the first place, which is like the one silver lining, the one gentle mercy to being tranquil is you don't remember what you're missing, which I guess makes it easier to exist in such a state. But either way, it's a horrifying future for Jowan to stare down. Not only would he lose basically everything that makes him himself, but he also would become somewhat of a slave to the Templars and the Chantry. And that's not a good thing to be. Jowan doesn't want to do this, and he doesn't intend to just sit around and let this happen to him. He plans to break out of the circle, taking with him a girl that also apparently is in love with him, and they're like a thing. Sure. Jowan is at risk of losing everything. His personality, his attachments, all of the things that make him human, and I can either help him or rat him out. So, of course, my bestest friend in the entire world that I've only known for like maybe 5 minutes, I will risk everything to help you out. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell anyone.
Thank you. I knew you'd stand by me.
It's literally none of my business. Great, get married, have some kids. Can I go now? That's so funny. Ken have brought me here to chat about love. Truly happy for you both. Sure.
There is
Will be
something
nice.
else. Remember I said that I didn't think they wanted to give me my harrowing? I know why. They're going to make me tranquil. They'll take everything that I am from me. My dreams, hopes, fears, my love for Lily. All gone.
No. You know, I honestly don't think that's better than dying. I think he would be better off dying, actually. What are you gonna do?
I need to escape. I need to destroy my phylactery. Without it, they can't track me down. We need your help. Lily and I can't do this on our own.
Give us your word that you will help, and we will tell you what we intend.
I want to do this for them. I really want to do this for them. But, now I'm overthinking it because that demon said the test is never over. And now I'm scared. But, you know what? He's our best friend. They have my word. Mages are treated as weapons instead of people within the universe of Dragon Age, and the concept of becoming tranquil is incredibly dehumanizing and very, very messed up when you think about it. I think mages deserve their freedom. Don't know if that's a hot take. And we can deal with nefarious ones as they arise. Like, I don't think there's any need to treat every single mage like they're one step away from becoming an atomic bomb. Yes, I've started Dragon Age 2. Yes, I like Anders as a character. Does all of this, like, come together to mean something to those who, like, know more about Dragon Age than I do? I was more than happy to stand by Jowan and help him out. We meet up with his girlfriend, and the three of us make a plan to escape. Well, I'm not escaping, but I'm helping them escape. A fetch quest later, we are headed down to the basement where vials of blood are kept for each mage. They are essentially tracking devices to hunt mages down if they were to ever go apostate, because in this world, a mage is required, basically, to be a part of the circle, working with and for the Chantry. That is pretty much the only future a mage can aspire for. And anyone who deviates from this is considered a rebel mage and dangerous, and there are legal consequences involved, even if you were never given to the circle and the Chantry as a child. So, like, that's kind of wild, in my opinion. Once Jowan's vial of blood is destroyed, we head back up to the main floor, where we're instantly met with the consequences of our actions. First Enchanter Irving and the Templar dudes are all standing there waiting. Templars are essentially knights working for the Chantry, by the way. They're the cop-like figures who are seen as overly cruel and scared from a mage's perspective. Mages are an oppressed class, and Templars are the ones enforcing that. This looks bad.
Gregor.
An initiate conspiring with a blood mage. I'm disappointed, Lily. She seems shocked, but fully in control of her own mind. Not a thrall of the blood mage, then. You were right, Irving. The initiate has betrayed us. The Chantry will not let this go unpunished.
We are instantly met with hostility. The Templars are assuming that Jowan is a terrible person and is using his magic to enthrall Lily instead of the obvious, more realistic fact that, like, that's just two people in love who want to escape oppression. And all of this because he had the audacity to use blood magic. Listen, I'm well aware that blood magic is often painted as evil magic in fantasy. It has the power to strip a person of their autonomy, and that's pretty messed up. But when a fictional character starts talking about how magic does not have a morality, and it's all up to the user to be good or bad, I do have to agree with that.
You don't care for the mages. You just bow to the Chantry's every whim.
Jowan is fed up with how he and the other mages have been treated by the Chantry, and he's kind of cooking. But Jowan is sentenced to death. For what reason? What crime? The crime of audacity? I guess it should be clarified that in the universe of Dragon Age, in order to use blood magic, there has to be a sacrifice of your own blood or life essence or someone else's. And using blood magic does make one more susceptible to being possessed by demons, which is a bad thing. But as far as we know, Jowan hasn't actually done anything nefarious or wrong. It's just the mode of magic that is wrong. Sure, blood magic makes uses of sacrifices, and that can be a gray area morality-wise. And it can also be incredibly dangerous to use. But on the other hand, the Chantry is so afraid of this magic they quite frankly don't understand that they're even suspicious of studying anatomy for non-magic related purposes. So, make of that what you will. Anyway, all this to say, Wheatley stands by Jowan.
I won't let you touch her!
Why was that so loud? Right, wrong, depends who you ask, truly. Yeah, I still stand with him for now. Lily did nothing wrong, and his crash out was justified here. Luckily, though, the game does let you keep deniability in terms of Jowan's blood magic, so Wheatley may not be that cooked.
But your antics have made a mockery of this circle. What are we to do with you?
Okay, so he is that cooked, but it's fine, it's fine. Duncan is our knight in shining armor. Real recognizes real, and he knows that loyalty is a good trait to have. Wheatley is now recruited to be a Grey Warden. Sick. Free from the circle, kind of, Wheatley is now embarking on his new life, which starts with another ritual. But before that, we get to meet some of the companions for this game. Most importantly, the dog. We named him Croissant. We had a little bit of a bread theme going, but there is a little bit of a fetch quest that we have to do in order to lock him in as our dog, and he doesn't really join the gang until a bit later, but he's such a big deal that meeting him actually crashes the game. Why did the game just crash? Yeah, hi. So Dragon Age Origins without any mods does not run very well on a PC, at least in this day and age. 15 years of technology advancements on computers do that to a game, I guess. Luckily though, there is a pretty easy to find fix for it, and it's not difficult to do. But I did have the help of chat seeing what was going on and friends who already knew the struggles of running this game on a modern computer, so I didn't have to figure it out on my own. And I didn't have to figure out that it wasn't just a me issue, so when my friend sent me the link of how to fix it, it was pretty easy, and if I wasn't streaming this game, I don't think I would have figured that out as quickly or as smoothly. So for those who want to play the game and are convinced by this video to finally give it a shot, be aware of that. I'm going to link the fix in the description below, so we should all be good. Alright, let's get back to the game. The actual most important companion, and the one that I would argue is kind of a main character of the game without the player being in the game, is Alistair. Another Grey Warden recruit with a Templar past.
I simply came to deliver a message from the revered mother, Sir Mage. She desires your presence.
What her reverence desires
Why does he
is
sound
of no
so
concern
suspicious?
to me. I am busy helping
What's
the Grey
wrong with
Wardens
him?
by the king's orders, I might add.
Should I have asked her to write a note?
Tell her I will not be harassed.
Maybe it's just the
in this
delivery on that
manner.
one line.
Yes, I was harassing you by delivering a message.
Your glibness does you no credit.
Here I thought we were getting along so well. I was even going to name one of my children after you. The grumpy one.
That's crazy.
Enough. I will speak to the woman if
Who
I
is
must.
this man?
Get out of my way, fool.
Alistair is a sassy little guy, and he is my dearly beloved best friend. The swap up on him is so real for me. Let me pull back the curtain here. I knew Dragon Age Origins had gender-specific romances, so I did look up who the romanceable companions were just to make sure I wasn't going to miss out on the love of my life by playing as a man the way I prefer to in gender-specific games. Playing as a man, you only lock yourself out of an Alistair romance, and I was so fine with that. I didn't think I was going to like him that much at all, just based on appearances and a general first impression from the wiki without looking at spoilers. But now, Alistair is my precious little Blorbo. He'll become Wheatley's best friend over time, and I like him a lot, actually. Alistair is already a Grey Warden at this point of the game, but he will be attending the joining ritual with us. He is kind of a part of our party now, and it just makes sense to have him join along. So we're kind of set up to be brothers in arms already. Wheatley is walking into the ritual with no details at all whatsoever, but Alistair says not to worry about it, so I guess we won't worry about it. The whole ritual is shrouded in mystery, and there's an air of unease underneath the friendly welcomes. We're walking into something that we have no clue about, really, and it's something that may not be as good as an option as we initially thought it was. Coming from a mage background, though, most of us will feel that even though the whole Grey Warden business is kind of sketchy, it's still going to beat being stuck in the tower, forever bound to the Circle and the Templars. Being a Grey Warden grants a level of freedom not usually offered to mages, and being a Grey Warden offers a level of freedom and power that is not usually offered to elves either. And from my understanding, a lot of the Origins kind of come from traumatic, messed up backgrounds, so I think everybody, regardless of what you pick as your origin, is coming from a place where being a Grey Warden, despite all of the unusual vibes, is still probably like better than where you came from. So despite the weird secrets, the unsettling aura behind the scenes, and the uncertainty of what's to come next, Wheatley is pretty optimistic about this deal, at least I was as a player. It's either be a Grey Warden or face the punishment of helping Jowan escape. I think we all agree on what probably sounds like the better option here. Before we can actually join the Grey Wardens, we do go on a small little mission with Alistair and 2 random guys that are also recruits, but like, don't worry about them. During this little starter quest, we get to know our future fellow Grey Wardens and possibly grow attached to these characters at the start. Are all humans such cowards? There's nothing we can do about it now.
My wife is in Highover with a child on the way. If they had warned me, it just doesn't seem fair.
Not that I have a wife and
Would you have come if they
child.
warned you? Maybe that's why they don't. The Wardens do what they must, right?
Including sacrificing us?
I'd sacrifice a lot more if I knew it would end the Blight.
Ignore all the death flags that these 2 randos have. They're just nervous and telling you the things they have to live for. Nothing else to see here. We also meet this strange and absolutely stunning woman in the wilds, a dangerous forest swamp kind of area that's mostly uninhabited, save for darkspawn and people who don't want to be found, like apostate mages. And again, you're considered an apostate mage if you were never taken into the Circle, treated like a criminal just for never getting involved. You're basically equal footing as someone who was there and then escaped like Jowan. But we meet this beautiful woman who has what we're looking for. I'm gonna miss her so much, I hope we see her again. Once it's time to participate in the joining, everyone gathers around the campfire, and Duncan is as cryptic as ever. What is going on with this ritual, my guy?
We Grey Wardens pay a heavy price to become what we are. Fate may decree that you pay your price now, rather than later.
But our little guy Wheatley, and myself while playing this, didn't really look too much into that statement. The group relocates to the temple, and we finally start to get some answers on what the joining ritual actually is. Prospective Grey Wardens drink the blood of Darkspawn. Consuming the essence of the Darkspawn and mastering the taint gives Grey Wardens their power. There's an essence of horror here. Drinking the blood of the monster and letting the taint, a form of spiritual and physical corruption, ravage your body in hopes that you can fight against it and survive. And not everyone survives. But the ones who do become immune to the taint and are better equipped to fight off the Darkspawn that they can now sense due to also having the taint within them. Grey Wardens are also the ones who can defeat the Archdemon, the leader of the Blight, essentially. And if you were not a Grey Warden, if you were just like a normal, everyday person encountering Darkspawn, you could get sick and basically like be tarnished by the taint, and it will kill you. And it seems like a miserable death. Also, wild game choice. It's not a wild game choice, but like, what a thing to experience. The first person to drink at the joining does succumb to the taint, dying within seconds. Like, yeah, what a way to get the rest of us pumped to participate in the joining. R.I.P. to David. Jory is not willing to risk that, though. He has a family, and he doesn't want to just die. He tries to fight back, but Duncan kills him. Our fate has already been sealed. We either become a Grey Warden or we die trying. There is literally no other option. So, for the second time in Wheatley's life, within the past 24 hours, death is staring him in the face, and it's all based on if he's built different or not. Wheatley drinks from the cup, swallowing darkspawn blood, and he sees visions of a scary dragon. This is an archdemon, by the way. Yeah, Grey Wardens are just plagued by strange nightmares like this vision. It's something that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. So, like, that's a fun thing to look forward to. Wheatley awakens to Duncan and Alistair looming over his body, hoping for the best. He's welcomed into the Grey Wardens, and Alistair lets us know that only one person died on his joining, so he's kind of shaken up and glad to see that at least we made it. And now we're part of the elite group of warriors dedicated to fighting off the Darkspawn and preventing or ending blights. We now get to be involved in things that I'm definitely not qualified to be involved with. Military strategy.
Loghain, my decision is final. I will stand by the Grey Wardens in this assault.
You risk too much, Kalen. A Darkspawn horde is too dangerous for you to be playing hero on the front lines.
If that's the case, perhaps we should wait for the Orlesian forces to join us after all.
I must repeat my protest to your fool notion that we need the Orlesians to defend ourselves.
It is not a fool notion. Our arguments with the Orlesians are a thing of the past, and you will remember who is king.
He's trying to unite a people.
Fortunate
How kind of
Marek
him.
did not live to see his son ready to hand Ferelden over to those who enslaved us for a century.
Oh.
Then our current forces will have to
That's a little
suffice, won't
different.
they? Duncan, are your men ready for battle?
They are, Your Majesty.
And this is the recruit I met earlier on the road? I understand congratulations are in order. Every Grey Warden is needed now. You should be honored to join their ranks.
I'm so honored.
Your fascination with glory and legends will be your undoing, Kalen. We
He's just a
must
little silly
attend
guy.
to reality.
Fine. Speak your strategy. The Grey Wardens and I draw the Darkspawn into charging our lines, and then?
You will alert the tower to light the beacon, signaling my men to charge from
To
cover.
flank the Darkspawn, I remember. This is the Tower of Ishal in the ruins, yes? Well, who shall light this beacon?
I have a few men stationed there. It's not a dangerous task, but it is vital.
Then we should send our best. Send Alistair and the new Grey Warden to make sure it's done.
I probably should have said this earlier, but what are Darkspawn for people watching this video that are not already Dragon Age pilled? And what's a blight? Why is all of this a big deal? Darkspawn are a race of humanoid creatures that have been corrupted by the taint, basically, becoming kind of mindless monsters. They live primarily on the deep roads, which is far underground, and they're believed to be soulless, and they roam around attacking whoever and searching for the old gods, ancient beings that were once worshipped in the form of dragons. And if a Darkspawn finds an old god, they're kind of like exposing the old gods to the taint and creating an archdemon that leads the Darkspawn in an attack against life on the surface. This organized attack is called a blight, and they're pretty catastrophic. So now that we've got all that sorted, the Grey Wardens believe that there is a blight that's kind of getting started currently in the game, and there is a big battle planned. However, my biggest op, Loghain, thinks our plans are in vain. And like, sure. He's definitely more qualified at this than I am, and he does genuinely believe that we are walking into a suicide mission. He's very worried for King Kalen and is convinced that we're all making a huge mistake. It's time for the big battle. The soon-to-be Battle of Ostagar. Alistair and Wheatley are tasked with clearing the tower and being ready to send a signal to Loghain and his men who are to flank the Darkspawn. It's supposed to be an easy task for the newer Grey Wardens. Alistair, I don't think, has been a Grey Warden for very long, so we're kind of like the newbies going on our little easy task to kind of get us used to things. But things are dire. The situation is worse than we had anticipated for, and as we're faced with more Darkspawn than we anticipated, Alistair is very, very worried that something terrible is going to happen, but we must push forward. We have a job to do. After lighting the beacon, we get a cutscene of what's going on down on the battlefield. We see Locane call for a retreat, abandoning the plan and effectively sealing the fates of everyone on the battlefield. We don't know for certain if Locane and his men would have actually changed the tides of the battle, but we do know that his retreat made it impossible for a victory. So, like, would we all have died anyway? I guess it's possible. We watch as everyone fights for their lives in vain. King Cailan is ruthlessly slaughtered. Duncan is also killed in the fight, as well as everyone else on the battlefield. In fact, Alistair and the player are the only survivors out of all of the people there. We are the only two who have survived. And we only survived because of interference. Wheatley awakens in a room with the beautiful lady from before, and her name is Morrigan, by the way. We're now at the part where she becomes a companion in the game. So now we have 2 besties. Love that for us. This is also where we learn that Alistair and the player are the only survivors solely because of Flemeth, Morrigan's mom, and the Witch of the Wilds. She saved us, so, like, good for her. I'm so glad she did, because I like being alive and having a game to play. Flemeth insists that we take Morrigan with us to aid us on this journey, which, of course, we love to have hot people on the party. Morrigan's not super excited about this, but she goes anyway because that's what she was told to do. But, you know, I think it ends up being better for her in the long run. With a blight on the horizon and basically all of the Grey Wardens dead, Alistair and I have to figure out what to do next. What kind of help can we get? Who can we reach out to? And luckily, Alistair knows that we can go to Redcliffe and talk to Earl Eamon. So, with that in mind, we set off. We get another cutscene, this time a catch up on what's going on in Denerim, the big city where, like, the king lives. Rip to the king. Yeah, we did the
And I
dog.
expect each of you to supply these men. We must rebuild what was lost at Ostagar, and quickly. There are those who would take advantage of our weakened state if we let them. We must defeat this Darkspawn incursion, but we must do so sensibly and without hesitation.
Isn't he the
Your
main
lordship,
one hesitating,
if I might
though?
speak. You have declared yourself Queen Honora's regent, and claim we must unite under your banner for our own good. But what of the army lost at Ostagar? Your withdrawal was most fortuitous.
I agree. I don't know anything about
Everything
army
I have
combat
done has been to
strategies,
secure
but I
Ferelden's
agree.
independence. I have not shirked my duty to the throne, and neither will any of you.
The Banon will not bow to you simply because you demand it.
Oh, there's
Understand
unrest.
this. I will brook
His
no
armor does look
threat
good.
to
You're
this
so
nation
right.
from you or anyone.
Kool-Aid is a coward.
Bantegan,
Now you
please.
call him Kool-Aid.
Your Majesty, your father risks civil war. If Eamon were here...
Bantegan, my father is doing what is best.
Did he also do what was best for your husband, your Majesty?
I feel that was way too soon. Do they know each other like that? You tell him, random citizen. Locane has assumed a position of power, and while he may be doing what he thinks is best, the people are not on board and question his retreat. One thing that I've failed to mention earlier is King Cailan was willing to reach out to a neighboring nation for help, and Locane was very much against it because in the past, that neighboring nation was kind of like oppressors to Lothering. Not Lothering. Ferelden. We live in Ferelden. Lothering is a town. I'm off script right now if you can't tell. So Lokind, this was all something within Lokind's living memory, by the way. And so he's making his decisions based off of trauma from his past and knowing the history and the terrible things that Ferelden went through at the hands of this other country. So that was like one thing Lokind had going for him. And throughout the game, we see him for the paranoid man that he is or is becoming. And from Lokind's perspective, it really is a tragic undoing of a man. But, and the reason he's my number one op, is as we travel through the early stages of the game, we do learn that Lokind not only retreated, he then placed the blame on King Kaelin's death solely on the Grey Wardens. He was like, yes, those Grey Wardens, they killed our king. They killed him. And if I remember correctly, also wanted us to be arrested. Who knows what he would have done with us if that were to happen. So I was not gonna let that slide. That made me very upset and angry. And you know, like I've said before, and I'll be so real, I don't know enough about strategy and war to say if Lokind was completely correct. But what I do know is that he abandoned us. And he lied to the public about what happened, directly making my life harder, and now I hate him. Is it unfair? Probably. Some very kind people in the YouTube chat while I was streaming this game did let me know that there is a book. If you wanted to read books about Dragon Age, there was a book about Lokind, and it allows for you to have a lot more empathy towards his character. And while I understand that side of things, that was not present in the game. It is so hard to like him in this game. This game, it took me like 60 hours to finish this game, okay? We did cover the first like 8 hours just now. So that was like the first 8 hours of my game. It'll probably take you not as long to play through all of that because I was doing a lot of yapping to chat while I played. If I was playing it and not streaming it, it probably wouldn't have taken me that long. That's like the first like 1/6 of the game. In the whole grand scheme of things, that wasn't much. It was just like the very beginning setup. Dragon Age is fun because while there is a set starting point and a set ending point, the middle can be done in whatever order, and you can work on different parts of the story at the same time, which is also part of why my plot recap is ending there and not recapping the whole game, because that's kind of a lot. and I did sit with the script for a couple of days wondering, like, how am I gonna recap this, because I did not do it in order. Anyway, I'm not gonna go through each of the plot points from here on out, but it is mostly going to different locations in hopes of finding allies to help you fight against the Blight, and helping people along the way. And also, uncovering the horrors beyond your imagination. Yeah, so Dragon Age Origins isn't exactly a horror game, but like, it's a horror game. I don't think it has the... Let me look this up. Yeah, so the tags on Steam are RPG, fantasy, story-rich, and choices matter. It doesn't have a horror tag, but Dragon Age Origins is a horror game. Maybe not a horror game in the sense of like Poppy Playtime or Five Nights at Freddy's, but it is a horror game. From the get-go, we are placed in a bleak world, and as I stated earlier, from my understanding, all of the origin backgrounds are somewhat traumatic, either in concept or based on tragedies and messed up things that the player goes through during the first part of the game. The monsters are horrifying and the gore is goring. Also, mild spoilers, there is a quest in the Deep Roads that is legitimately nightmare fuel if you think about it for more than a second.
The men, they kill. They're merciful. But the women, they want to touch, to mold, to change until you are filled with them.
So, are we about to come across something that requires a sexual assault content warning. Because, like, it low-key kind of sounds like that.
They took Laren. They made her eat the others, our friends. She tore off her husband's face.
And drink his blood.
blood.
Crazy. Tore off his face? That's wild.
And while
He might...
ate, she grew. She swelled and turned gray, and she smelled like them. They remade her in their image. Then she made more of them.
So it's like Darkspawn hybrids. Or was she turned in... No, she was turned into them. Oh. Okay. Dragon Age often showcases the horror of exploitation and body horror, especially in its concept of the Brood Mother, a creature that was once a normal woman of non-Darkspawn origin, tortured and transformed into a beast that produces Darkspawn. Also, some of the set design is giving I'm walking in caverns that are alive, and I love that, but it is horror. Dragon Age Origins is kind of scary. And the horror continues into the DLC Awakening, which if you are buying the game now, at least on Steam, you kind of are forced to buy the DLC. It's all like a bundle together, but like the price doesn't reflect that. Just want to let you know. Pretty much every big plot point in this game has some sort of like horror underlying it. There's the horror of exploitation, which I said a minute ago, and you go through things that are borderline psychological torture for you and your companions, and you go on these journeys that are definitely giving you and your companions PTSD after this. Like, rip to the Warden. Great character to play as. Wheatley's having the time of his life. Wheatley's also having the worst time of his life, I fear. While the game itself definitely touches on horrific themes and definitely has a darker and edgier just like art direction and story direction, there's also a lot of lighthearted charm to it as well, most notably in the characters that go on this journey with us. So allow me to officially introduce you guys to the main companions of Dragon Age Origins. Alistair, despite all he's gone through, which I'm not going to go into in this video, remains a relatively lighthearted guy who keeps an optimistic attitude. He's a very happy guy, at least on the surface. His sarcasm is his main source of humor, and I quite frankly really enjoy that and find it very, very endearing. He's just a fun, cute little guy to have around. I'm asking him about his love life, I'm pretty sure.
Never what? Had a good pair of shoes?
Morrigan is the resident mean girl, but like in a fun and quirky way. She and Alistair hate each other, and they do make their disdain for one another known. One thing about Dragon Age Origins is there is a lot of character banter between the companions, so as you're walking around different places in the game, they'll talk to each other, and there are set points on the map that are banter triggers. So if you just want to like hear them talk to each other a lot, just like go back and forth on the same bridge or something like that. Morrigan, as mean as she is, does care though, or at least grows to care about the player at the very least. She's been isolated for most of her life and is still getting the hang of interacting with others. The whole outsider learning how to adapt to the world, basically, is her thing. With a little bit of a morally gray twist, she is definitely classified as a chaotic neutral.
Ah, so you have finally decided to rejoin us, have you? Falling on your blade in grief seemed like too much trouble, I take it.
Leliana is the sweetest woman in the world. I think she's great. We meet her at the Chantry in Lothering, a small little like village town that we go to pretty early in the game. Leliana has an appetite for adventure and a rocky past that has set her up to be pretty good at handling herself on this dangerous journey. She also has an eye for the finer things in life. She enjoys the artistry of some good shoes. She feels like a very well-rounded person. All of the companions in this game feel very well-rounded, but Leliana, I think, is... And this isn't to say that none of the others lack this level of realness and humanity, but Leliana just feels like somebody you could go meet on the street. If that makes sense. She's one of those characters that's really easy to love due to her kind disposition to the player, and she's also, like, pretty reasonable morality-wise and has a very reasonable look on life, which you can't really say for some of the characters. Alistair is also very reasonable morally, I think, but Leliana is set up to be a little bit more swayed than Alistair. That's the vibe I got. I'm probably wrong. I've only played this game once, but that's the vibe I got. She's a good person at heart, but she's not like a paladin. For the D&D nerds out there. This vision of yours.
I knew this would come up sooner or later. I don't know how to explain, but I had a dream. In it, there was an impenetrable darkness. It was so dense, so real. And there was a noise, a terrible, ungodly noise. I stood on a peak and watched as the darkness consumed everything. And when the storm swallowed the last of the sun's light, I fell. And the darkness drew me in.
You dreamed of the blight?
I suppose I did. That was what the darkness was, no? When I
think
woke,
so.
I went to the Chantry's gardens, as I always do. But that day, the rose bush in the corner had flowered. Everyone knew that bush was dead. It was grey and twisted and gnarled, the ugliest thing you ever saw. But there it was, a single beautiful rose. It was as though the Maker stretched out his hand to say, even in the midst of this darkness, there is hope and beauty. Have faith.
On the other hand, we have Zevran, my dear beautiful wife, and the silly rogue who cannot lockpick to save our lives. He's the assassin that was actually hired to kill us, so like, our meet cute, oh my gosh. Zevran is a mostly humorous guy despite his bleak and horrible life. He has a pretty warped view on the world and how things are because of his upbringing and the environment he's currently living in. But he's generally a good guy. If you've ever seen Apothecary Diaries and you know how Mao Mao is different because, or she has like a very specific outlook on things because she was literally raised in a brothel. Like that's Zevran, but more traumatic. Mao Mao has people that care about her. And you know, I say Zevran's a good guy. I think he's a good guy. At least he is if you're playing a generally good character and not hardening everyone, which is the mechanic of being evil and convincing everyone else to be evil as well. But Zevran, I think out of all the companions, Zevran and Morrigan are definitely, like, I guess more equipped to go on an evil run than, say, Alistair and Leliana, in my opinion. I love Zevran very, very much. He's my silly little guy, and his humor does lean more in, like, the sex humor kind of way, but I think it comes off more as just a guy being silly and joking about his own experiences more than anything else. Although, again, I played as a man. I don't know if that makes a difference. But I also know sometimes when Zevran and Leliana are on the party together, he flirts with her in a way that some people can interpret as uncomfortable. I see it more as, like, playful flirting, and she's just like, stop. But, like, not in the way where, like, she's uncomfortable, but in the way of, like, is this really my friend? I don't know if that makes sense, or if I'm just being overly charitable to, a silly little elf that I love very much. Tell me about your adventures!
My adventures? I'm hardly an old man just returned from across the ocean, am I? Should I shake my fist at nearby children while I talk about the good old days?
You certainly talk like you've had adventures.
falling down a flight of stairs is an adventure. Falling into someone's bed, also an adventure.
That's it for romanceable companions, though, but the rest of the cast is pretty great, too. We have Wen, the 40-something-year-old mage from the Circle who is written more like an 80-year-old woman, and designed like that, too. She takes on the mentor role of the group, and if you are also a mage, like Wheatley was, she is somebody who is from the same circle as you. I think there's only one circle in Ferelden. But you basically grew up around her, and it's safe to assume she had somewhat of a mentor role before the game takes place as well. So, like, that's just her thing. That's Grandma from the Circle, is how she's written. But she's very cool, and her story, I think, is pretty interesting. And she's just a cool person to have. She's also my healer. Healers are great. Next up, you have Sten, the Quinari. That is a pretty sparse and standoffish character at first. The first time you meet him, he's actually being held in a cage because he murdered people. But he had his reasons. He had his reasons. It's fine. Sten is actually kind of a sweet guy just trying to get his sword back so he can go home. That'll make more sense when you play through the game and you hear Sten talk about what it means to a Quinari to lose their sword. He's pretty comparable to Lae'zel from Baldur's Gate 3 in the sense that he comes from a completely different and harsher culture and is now trying to adapt to us as he gets to know us and our own customs. So that's fun. Finally, we have Oghren. He's a dwarf that you can encounter when heading down to the Deep Roads, and I have been told that he was intended to be the fan favorite character, which seems very seems like the intent behind his character, especially when you go into the DLC Awakening and he's like the one that's there and no one else is there. But I also think it's because he's a companion that doesn't have as much leeway as to whether or not he's gonna still be in your party by the end of the game. Because you don't have to take Zevran in. Alistair's ending can go a couple different big ways, and I think Morrigan's ending also can go a couple different big ways, so they can't be carried over into Awakening as easily. It's still wild that they intended for Oghren to be the fan favorite, and I want to make it known, I have never had him in the same party as Leliana or Morrigan, and I also played as a man, so I didn't experience the worst this character has to offer, allegedly. He is essentially an alcoholic womanizer that has not aged well over the past 15 years, but when he's just around the guys, or when he's in a party with, like, me, Zevran, and Shale, it's chill as hell. He's somewhat amusing, if not a bit depressing and pathetic in a sad way. He's a guy who's been through a lot and is not dealing with it in the healthiest ways. At least that's what his character comes off as to me. So, like, rest in peace, Oghren. Don't let that man near a woman, apparently. Speaking of Shale, if you have the DLC and, if you bought the game more recently, you absolutely do. You can also get Shale, who is a golem. Shale is also somewhat similar to Sten in the sense that it has to adapt to dealing with people and doesn't really get your customs or vibe, but I love Shale. And its story is honestly really good, and also kind of sad when you get to the real depths of its backstory beyond the coma-like state it had spent most of its remembered life in. Dragon Age Origins has a lot of really sad things going for it, honestly. If you love angst, you're gonna love Dragon Age Origins. If you've played Inquisition or Veilguard and you have not played Origins, I highly, highly recommend that you do. I think it's great. I love this game so much. But I have also been told, again, I'm still making my way through Dragon Age 2, so this is more what's been passed down to me. But I have been told that in terms of, like, vibe and tone, Origins is much darker than any of the other games, especially compared to Inquisition, and triply so for Veilguard. So, I guess be aware of that. If I'm going to recommend this game, I feel it's only responsible of me to say, like, hey, it's not quite like Veilguard. there's some things, it goes wild, it goes crazy. I love this game dearly. The story's great, the game is great, the characters are great. The character creation's fine for a game that came out in 2009. I wanted to keep this video mostly spoiler free, especially for like late game stuff, even though the game is 15 years old. I know not everyone has played it, and I know the vast majority of people who watch my videos do not watch my live streams, which is totally fine. Those are two completely different types of content. And I just want to convince people to play this game because it's amazing and it's great. And maybe we didn't wait too late after Veilguard to ride the Veilguard high and convince people to play Origins who got into Dragon Age with Veilguard that came out a few months ago or whatever. I hope you guys who don't watch the live streams are now excited for the Dragon Age era. I don't know if I'm gonna make a video like this for every Dragon Age game, but there will probably be content for other Dragon Age games as I play through them. Again, I am live streaming every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We live stream Dragon Age. It's kind of like the thing I've been doing for the past few months. So if you want to tune in to my Dragon Age journey live as it happens, that's where you can find it. If not, then please be so patient while I churn out some more formal Dragon Age videos. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video, whatever that may be. Goodbye!